This would be Thursday, November 20th, advanced class. We're going to get into a interesting story today. But before that, let's do our bell work, and we'll go through and see, once again, if you want tickets. I think you can buy them still today. We can take volunteers for our bell work here in just a moment, and I can put up the monkey treats for those of you who want the monkey treat. Did we have anyone that wanted to try our first sentence to go for the monkey treat, or did we just work it together? No bravery? Just bravery?
Yeah.
Have you gotten a monkey treat yet?
No.
Then you can try and be brave.
Okay.
Alright, you've gone through and labeled them?
Yeah.
Alright, I wish you luck. I tried to make it easy. I wasn't trying to scare you guys off. But apparently it's not very effective. Jeepers! I cannot wait until Thanksgiving. So we'll go through and do our one noun first.
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, good job. And then we have one pronoun.
I.
You're 2 for 2. We have 2 verbs.
Wait.
Okay, that's 1.
And can.
Are you asking me? I need strength.
Can.
And what's the other one?
Wait.
Good job, Jake. So you have can and wait as our 2 verbs. You seem scared. Adjectives?
None.
Okay, so that check. Sometimes I can trick people. Adverbs? So you only have 3 words
Okay.
left. An interjection, an adverb, and a preposition.
Not.
Is correct. And our preposition?
Until.
Nicely done again. And your interjection?
Jeepers.
Go you. Alright.
Yay.
So now for the verbs, we have to label them action or boring. Can.
Is boring.
I did boring for that one. And wait.
Is action.
Good job. And we have our adverb not, which modifies,
Wait.
technically modifies can, which I think is what makes it tricky, because you can make it into a contraction. And what's the contraction?
Can't.
And so it's saying that you, the can and the not, but that's the tricky one, so I'm not going to torture you on that one.
Okay.
But we can write snail down. Go snail. And was there anything on that first one that was tricking you, that made you guys not want to volunteer?
Well, last time I volunteered, I didn't do so well.
I was just not.
Rose?
Well, I have a question. So if it becomes can't, would it be an adverb or a verb?
It'd still be a contraction. It's still a verb with an adverb next to it. Just saying
So
that.
it's both?
Same, yeah.
So
That's,
it's a word that's both?
well, technically it's just a contraction, which means 2 words there. So you have to label both words. Just
So
like
I
we did.
labeled contraction?
Just like we did I'm. That is
Pronoun.
and.
I am. But, like, do you say pronoun verb or do you say
Well,
contraction?
you do pronoun verb.
Then why is it a contraction?
Why is it a contraction? Isn't a part of speech.
Beginning to taste
Yeah, but you were like, it's a contraction.
Right.
candy canes. It's like
Well,
my
is
favorite
it
thing
a
in the
verb?
world.
And you're like, it's a contraction.
So
No, I
like the
didn't
monkey
spit
trees
that
and
way.
this thing.
I didn't mean to confuse you. Right! The second one. That was a scary conversation. I am running a race early that morning. Is this you, Wigger? Have you not gotten your monkey treat yet? You may step up. Oh, it's an empty monkey treat.
Did you eat it?
No, I did not. How very accusatory of you. Alright. Let's see. We start off with nouns. Dos naunos
Race.
is our first one. Second one.
Morning.
Nicely done. And pronouns
I
is correct. And 2 verbs.
am
And
running.
nicely done. You seem confused, child. Adjectives
A.
is incorrect. We don't label A. It's an article adjective. We don't do a, an, or the.
So that
Is correct. Then adverb.
early.
You seem to be on a roll so far. What are you? 7 for 7? 7 for 7. And we have a. That's it. Now just labeling the verbs.
I
Am.
boring verb.
Running.
Action verb.
And our adjective that modifies
Morning.
is correct. And early modifies?
Morning.
So because adverbs modify what? No, what part of speech do adverbs modify?
No.
That make it an adjective?
Oh. That.
That, because that would be an adjective. Correct. But you get one mistake. Adverbs add to.
Adverbs describes a verb added to an adverb.
Nicely done. So you're probably looking for a verb, because it's not going to modify that. We don't do that early. What happens early?
Early.
Which verb in the sentence is going to happen early on Thanksgiving?
Run it.
Nicely done, dear. So what's the verb it modifies?
Run it.
Good job. So it's going to modify running. Good job, Wecker.
It modifies name.
Any questions on that one? See, that one also could have been a contraction, but I didn't make it a contraction because it has I am, and I was trying to not confuse you. Apparently it happened anyway.
Confusing.
Harper.
You should have said yeet. I can't wait. I cannot wait until Thanksgiving.
I
You
will
should have
work
said
on.
yeet. That would have been so funny.
I will try to work yeet into my next one and see what I
Oh my
can
god.
Yeah.
That's
I would. Whoa. No.
do. Special
Stop
children.
it. No. And make it a roast. No. Yeet your hair the other day. Or something.
My brain hurts. All right, so now, if you have no other issues with the notebook and the bell work, you can put that to the side, and we're going to get to our penultimate story. Yes, dear?
Well, I just have a question about yesterday's thing.
Yes.
Which side do you agree with?
Overall, I think we're going to have to permit it. I think it's just moving forward. I think trying to stop it will lead to more dangers. I think it's a matter of just trying. Our conversation from yesterday, genetic engineering, we had a big talk, people were in the room,
Oh yeah.
and so I think I support it more so than the other one. But I enjoy picking fights with both sides.
But you didn't pick fights with the other side.
Oh, I did.
No, you didn't.
Trust me, they felt. Okay, I won't argue with you. This'll.
Wait, you're for it?
Overall, yes.
Okay.
Good stuff. So for our story today,
No.
you want to read?
Yeah.
We're not there yet. Our story, though, you were just squinting at me like you were in
Wait,
pain.
what happened to my eraser?
I don't know. It's probably over there with Hunter's points. Yeet! It might not have been. I was just excited to work yeet into it, so even if it was not used properly, it was just the joy of using the word. Yeet! I got to charge kids points. I didn't.
Yeet even mean.
Doesn't matter, I got to use it. So our story, the landlady, to jump into this one. You guys remember how the lady and the tiger ended?
Yeah.
Remember how the locker junkie ended?
Yeah.
This one, similar, except this one just stops. Hey, I'm not done. Don't yell. Don't yell at me yet. I'll hit every single one of you. It just stops in the middle of like a conversation.
What?
But I'm still not. I'm going to slap you in front of everyone. But we're going to have to use foreshadowing in the story. What is foreshadowing? Thank you.
But it gives like when it says something that like gives you a hint about which alludes to what's coming later on.
Nicely. Good use of the word alludes. In this story, there is a most definite ending, but you have to use the clues to figure it out. If you don't use the clues, you will have no idea what happens.
Hi.
We are being recorded, just so you know. Thank you. It showed up. Gotcha. So we'll have to use the clues.
Wait, what'd he do?
Long story. Use the clues in the story to figure out how it ends. If you don't use the clues, then yes, you're going to be very angry. Like, Mr. Brovicast, there's no ending on this. I'm so grumpy. And then we'll go back and use the clues, and you'll go, what? That's what happens? I'll go, yes. You'll go, how do you know? And we'll go back and point to the clues, and you're like, oh my God. And there might even be a wee bit of yeeting happening. Forcing that one, but it was just fun to say. And so as we get into it, the beginning part, you're like, Mr. Brovicast, this story is kind of weird. But as we keep going, like, Mr. Brovicast, this story is kind of weird. Then we're going to get to that, Mr. Brovicast, this story is weird. And so as we go through to it, just stay with me. Have faith. All right. Our story of the landlady.
Have faith. That's funny.
Alright, question before we begin.
Mr. Brovicast, this story's kind of weird.
Not there yet, dear. You have to wait. Alright, would you like to begin, Thistle?
Yes.
Thistle away.
Okay, Billy Weaver had traveled down from London on a slow afternoon train with a change at Reading on the way, and by the time he got to that, it was about 9 o'clock in the evening, and the moon was coming up out of a clear, starry sky over the houses opposite the station entrance. But the air was deadly cold, and the wind was like a flat blade of ice on his cheeks. "Excuse me," he said, "but is there a fairly cheap hotel not too far away from here?" "Tried the Bell and the Dragon," the porter answered, pointing down the road. "They might take you in. It's about a quarter of a mile along the other side."
Pause for just a quick moment. We have our main character. Who's our main character?
Billy.
Good. Billy Weaver. Where is Billy Weaver?
In a
train
Train station. It talks about Reading and Bath, and so those are actual towns, because we're going to find out, do you guys know what country Reading and Bath are in?
Not reading.
They're Reading, nicely done. And they're near London, so it's taking place in what country?
London.
London.
Oh, I guess that's right.
Taking place in England. Do you know what a porter is? If it says he's talking to a porter. Chloe?
A cop.
No, what a good guess. Hunter?
It's like the guy at the train station that like gives tickets.
Close. It's the guy that actually carries baggage. A porter, yeah, it's the word transport, which means to carry. A porter is someone that carries. Ports. If you have like a porthole, something you travel through. So a porter is just someone who like takes your bags off the train and is like, here's your stuff, and throws it at you. So that's the porter. So he's asking for where to go, because what's he trying to find?
A nice place to stay.
Trying to find a nice place to stay where he can sleep for the night. All right, keep going, Thistle.
Billy thanked him and picked up his suitcase and set out to walk a quarter mile to the Bell and Dragon.
Which, by the way, that's an awesome name for a place to stay. The Bell and Dragon. It's popping. All right, keep going.
Okay. He never had been to Bath before. He didn't know anyone who lived there. But Mr. Greenslade at the head office in London told him it was a splendid city. Find your own lodgings, he said, and then go along and report to the branch manager as soon as you've got yourself settled. Billy was 17 years old. He was wearing a new navy blue overcoat, a new brown trilby hat, and a new brown suit, and he was feeling fine. He walked briskly down the street. He was trying to do everything briskly these days. Briskness he had decided, was the one common characteristic of all successful businessmen. The big shots up at head office were absolutely fantastically brisk all the time. They were amazing.
One more.
Okay. There were no shops in this wide street that he was walking along, only a line of tall houses on each side, all of them identical. They had porches and pillars and 4 or 5 steps going up to their front doors, and it was obvious that once upon a time they had been very swanky residences. But now, even in the darkness, he could see that the paint was peeling from the woodwork on the doors and the windows, and that the handsome white facades were cracked and blotchy from neglect.
Do you guys know what swanky means?
Yeah.
Hunter?
It's like kind of like being like suave or like being like kind of like sassy but like looking good.
Not bad. It means the fancy, if you will, the looking good, the nice, and yes, what Keith said. I'm not sure a house is sassy, but sure. Because it's talking about the fact that the houses were swanky, and there's very few sassy houses, at least in my neighborhood. And then the facades just means the front of it. What's the weather like?
Cold.
This story is chock full of foreshadowing clues, where it's one of those stories where if you read it a second time, you're like, every other paragraph, like, Mr. Brovicast, that's a clue. Mr. Brovicast, that's a clue. Mr. Brovicast. Right now, it means nothing to you. Like, Mr. Brovicast, I don't mean nothing at all. But at the end, once you get done, we'll go back through and look at it, and you're going to see there's clues all through it. It's just right now, you just don't pick up on them being clues, but it's all right. So he's just trying to walk around and trying to find a place to stay for the night, and he's trying to find the Bell and the Dragon. Abby Q?
That reminds me of like the Weston game, because like the first time I read it, it's like, next time I read it, oh.
Yeah, it makes more sense. Very similar.
Yeah.
Where? We're going to keep going from there.
Suddenly, the downstairs window that was brilliantly illuminated.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I put a picture, he's talking about him wearing a trilby hat, so that was the little hat I threw up there so you guys could see it. So that's a trilby hat, so it's just like a little fan. Oh, and how old is Billy Weaver?
17.
17. So he's out on his own working a job as like a traveling salesman or something, so he's going from one spot to another. But he's 17, and this would have been shortly after World War II, so the 1940s, early 50s. So at 17, he's out there in the world like earning a job, like a real person. Yes, dear.
I think that's a clue.
We'll find out at the end. Wigger! Keep going.
Suddenly, the downstairs window that was brightly illuminated by a street lamp not 6 yards away, Billy caught sight of a printed notice propped against the glass on one of the upper panes. It said bed and breakfast. There was a vase of flowers, tall and beautiful, standing just underneath the notice. He stopped walking. He moved a bit closer. Green curtains, some sort of velvety material, were hanging down on either side of the window. The flowers looked wonderful beside them. He went right up and peered through the glass into the room, and the first thing he saw was a bright fire burning in the hearth. On the carpet in front of the fire, a pretty little dachshund was cuddled up asleep with its nose tucked into its belly. The room itself, so far as he could see in the half-darkness, was filled with pleasant furniture. There was a baby grand piano and a big sofa and several plump armchairs, and in one corner he spotted a large parrot in a cage. Animals were usually a good sign in a place like this, Billy told himself, and all in all, it looked to him as though it would be a pretty decent house to stay in. Certainly it would be more comfortable than the Bell and Dragon. On the other hand, a pub would be more
Congenial, friendly, outgoing, happy.
congenial than a boarding house. There would be beer and darts in the evenings, and lots of people to talk to, and it would probably be a good bit cheaper too. He had stayed a couple of nights in a pub once before, and he had liked it. He had never stayed in any boarding houses, and to be perfectly honest, he was a tiny bit frightened of them. The name itself conjured up images of watery cabbage, greedy landladies, and a powerful smell of fish in the living room. After dithering about this, about like this in the cold for 2 or 3 minutes, Billy decided that he would walk on and take a look at the Bell and Dragon before making up his mind. He turned to go.
All right. Do you guys know what a bed and breakfast is? Because he stops and sees a bed and breakfast. Rose?
Is it kind of like a hotel, except it's like in more like a house type thing? It kind of looks more old-fashioned.
Yeah, it's instead of like an official Holiday Inn, it's where you can set up your own house and your own building where people can stay there. You guys know where Conner Prairie is?
Yeah.
Right across the street from there is this big green, looks
Oh,
like a fancy
yeah.
house. That's a
What is
bed and
that?
breakfast. It's like an old farmhouse they've turned into a place where if you want to stay here. Typically they're a bit more expensive because you get to basically sleep in someone's house and you get to sleep on like a nice bed. They'll cook you dinner and you sometimes eat with the family and stuff like that. Mr. Rodiak, that's kind of creepy. That's actually the least creepy part of the story. It's just one of those things where you can choose to do it. The joy of it is it's a much more friendly atmosphere where you're sort of like bonding with someone. And so he has this internal conflict where he's dithering back and forth between going there or where's the other thing he could go to?
Bell and Dragon.
Yeah, Bell and Dragon, which is a pub, which is basically more like the hotel atmosphere where you have like the bottom layers like a bar and then they'll have rooms up like on the level above that. So he's trying to go back and forth between the two and he's like, this one would be more comfortable and more like home. I kind of miss home, but that one's be more like a party thing. He's like, I get to go out and have fun. He's like, which one should I do? And then he realizes, what's the weather like?
Cold.
Yeah, and he's like, and I'm going to have to hurry up and decide. So what does he decide to do? Yeah, he's going to go check the Bell and Dragon. He's like, I don't know. Oh, dachshund. Do you guys know what a dachshund is? Is this cuddled up in there?
A dog.
It's a dog. What kind of dog?
Wiener dog. An English.
It's a little wiener dog. Looks like that. And it says, there's a fire burning in the hearth. You know what a hearth is?
A fireplace.
Kind of figured you'd figure that one out. The fireplace, and then there's also another animal in there.
A dog.
A parrot.
That is a
Sorry,
dog, dear.
sorry.
The parrot, nicely done. And then he does make the comment that animals are usually a good sign in a place like this. What does that comment mean? Ike?
That it's not an abusive house.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to stay there, they're probably not a crazy person because they keep animals. And usually if crazy people, you can't keep animals very well because animals run away or die. And so he's like, there's animals here, so that's going to be a good sign. But at the same time, he's like, I don't know if I really want to stay here. Chloe?
Okay, I'm confused. So is the Bell and the Dragon place the one with
No,
creepy
he's not gone there yet.
landladies?
The Bell and the Dragon is like a pub, a party place.
So
And
the
this is-
other place he went to, what was that?
This is the one he's stopping at, the bed and breakfast. He's walking to the Bell and Dragon. Walkie. He's like, hey, there's a sign. The guy's attention. He's like, bed and breakfast. And he walks up and like looks in the window. He's like, ooh, it looks all cozy like home. But I want a party. So he decides to keep going down to the party place.
Okay.
You with me?
Yep.
Keep going, Yorkie. Top of the third column now, queer
And
thing.
now a queer thing happened to him. He was in the act of stepping back and turning away from the window when all at once his eye was caught and held in the most peculiar manner by the small notice that was there. Bed and breakfast. It said, bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast.
It basically means it's like beating into his brain. Bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast.
Each word was like a large black eye staring at him through the glass, holding him, compelling him, forcing him to stay where he was and not to walk away from that house. And the next thing he knew, he was actually moving across from the window to the front door of the house, climbing the steps that led up to it and reaching for the bell. He pressed the bell. Far away in a back room, he heard it ringing, and then at once, it must have been at once because he hadn't even noticed, he hadn't even had the time to take his finger from the bell button. The door swung open and a woman was standing there. Normally you ring the bell and you have at least a half minute's wait before the door opens. But this dame was like a jack-in-the-box. He pressed the bell and out she popped. It made him jump. She was about 45 or 50 years old, and the moment she saw him, she gave him a warm, welcoming smile. "Please come in," she said pleasantly. She stepped aside, holding the door wide open, and Billy found himself automatically starting forward into the house. The compulsion, or more accurately, the desire to follow after her into the house was extraordinarily strong.
All right, pause for a moment. One, do you guess what a dame is?
A what?
A dame? Yeah, it just means old fancy chick, like a ma'am, a madame, if you will, something like that. So, what does he decide to do instead of going on to the Bell and Dragon?
Walk into the house.
Yeah, he decides to go in, and he's like, all of a sudden he's leaving, and he's like, sort of like gets pulled into it, and he's like, bed and breakfast, why not? So he goes up there, and then he rings the doorbell, and what happens when he rings the doorbell?
Nice old woman.
She's not creepy, she's just an old woman. But what makes it odd when she pops out?
She did it
Immediately.
Yeah, so I mean, he's just like, all of a sudden, he's like, I'll go up there, and the doorbell, he's like, ding, he's like, boom, hi, how are you, dog? He's like, oh, jeez. And so, like, all of a sudden, he just, like, partway through the ding, she pops out and jumps at me, he gives that whole, like, oh, my goodness, and just sort of startles him, but he's like, she's just some old lady. And so then she invites him in, about 45, 50 years old, so a granny-ish type person. Grannies are friendly. Where do we get to from there? Please come in. We got to that one?
No.
Yeah.
I saw the notice. Yes.
I saw the notes. Yes.
That dog on the bottom left being a doctor.
That's the doctor. It's just, I don't know. I think that was actually a toy.
Yeah, I'm just in a minute.
All those things.
And we'll get to those in a moment. Rose! I saw the notice.
I saw the notice in the window. He said, holding himself back. Yes, I know. I was wondering
Actually,
about
I'll read her parts just to help out, so go back up a little bit.
I saw the notice in the window, he said, holding himself back.
Yes, I know.
I was wondering about a room.
It's all ready for you, my dear.
She said she had a round pink face and very gentle blue eyes. I was on my way to the Bell and Dragon, Billy told her, but the notice in your window just happened to catch my eye.
My dear boy.
She said,
Why don't you come in out of the cold?
how much do you charge?
5 and 6 pence a night, including breakfast.
It was fantastically cheap. It was less than half of what he had been willing to pay.
If that's too much,
She added,
then perhaps I can reduce it just a tiny bit. Do you desire an egg for breakfast? Eggs are expensive at the moment. It'd be 6 pence less without the egg.
5 and 6 pence is fine, he answered. I should like very much to stay here.
I knew you would. Do come in.
She sounds like she's like the wolf.
I'm trying to portray friendliness. This isn't the creepy part. This is the happy part.
Not even creepy, it's just you're making. I knew it.
I'm not good at reading old women. Keep going from there.
You said she wasn't creepy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard.
She seemed terribly nice.
See?
She
Nice.
She looked exactly like the mother of one's
Terribly.
best school friend, welcoming one into the house to stay for the Christmas holidays. Billy took off his hat and stepped over the threshold.
That just means like the entryway into the house. Just hang it there
She said.
and let me help you with your coat.
There are no other hats or coats in the hall. There are no umbrellas, no walking sticks, nothing.
We have it all to ourselves.
She said.
I'm trying to be less creepy when I read. I'm trying.
You're scaring me.
Well, no,
You're
it's the
scaring
dialogue.
me.
Let a girl do it.
Keep going.
Smiling at him over her shoulder as she led the way upstairs.
You see, it isn't very often I have the pleasure of taking a visitor into my little nest.
It doesn't matter who's saying it.
The old
Sit
girl
back,
is
you're
slightly
fine.
naughty, Billy told himself. But at 5 and 6 pence a night, who cares about that? I should have thought you'd be simply swamped with applicants, he said politely.
Do you guys know what Dottie means when he says he thinks she's like
Crazy.
yeah, not like crazy, but just like how like grandma is because she's old and forgets things, and she's like, hey, have a cupcake. You're like, Grandma, I've had 4. Oh, you have? You have another? And he's like, oh, she's just kind of, you know, old people. They're adorable. Oh, I am, my dear. I am, of course I am. But the trouble is that I'm inclined to be just a teeny weeny bit choosy in particular, if you see what I mean.
Ah, yes.
But I'm always ready. Everything is always ready, day and night in this house, just on the off chance an acceptable young gentleman will come along. And it is such a pleasure, my dear, such a very great pleasure, when now and again I open the door and I see someone standing there who's just exactly right.
She was halfway up the
She
stairs,
sounds like
and she paused with one hand on the stair rail, turning her head and smiling down at him with pale lips.
Like you.
She added, and her blue eyes traveled slowly all the way down the length of Billy's body, to his feet and then up again.
Now, just to give you a full idea of how that conversation goes. So, she says, well, back up. How much does it cost to stay there?
5 or 6 pence.
And he thought that it was going to be more expensive than in a pub. Is it more expensive?
No.
No, it's even cheaper. So he's getting the better place and getting a better deal at it. So he's like, well, double score. He's like, I'm all excited. And he's like, hey, is there anyone else staying there? No, because the place is empty. There's like nothing else hanging out there. He's like, and what does she tell him?
She
We have
thinks
it
she's
all.
justified.
We have it all to ourselves. She's like, I thought you would be, be swamped with people. She's like, well, I am, but I'm a little choosy because she's a lady staying by herself, and you don't want creepers coming in there. So that's the whole idea, is the fact that she's like, I'm a little bit choosy. And then as they're walking up the stairs, she was like, I want to have someone perfect, just like, and then she does this. You. And then keeps walking from there.
This lady is terrifying.
Now, just to warn you, if you try to read ahead, I didn't give you the end of the story. So, one, it wouldn't do you any good because you wouldn't understand the ending. But tomorrow's we'll get and find out just how silly you are about the story.